All right, so as marketers, we rely on data and information in order to make all the critical decisions that we make in terms of our marketing strategy and how we conduct our business. Unfortunately, despite our best efforts, sometimes we might get it wrong. Well, how does that happen? Well, sometimes our results or the interpretation that we make of data is just not quite right. So what can distort our results? Well, there are a lot of things. One is when we study a sample or a subgroup of the population, we might have too much sampling error. In other words, that sample might not really represent the overall population very well or very closely. That's what sampling error is, and that can really sort of distort the results or the estimates that you make based on your data. Another thing that can distort our results is the wording of our questions. If we don't ask questions just the right way, we can either influence the answer that we get, or we can accidentally measure the wrong thing. So the way we ask questions or the wording that we use in creating questions for surveys or even for focus groups or interviews is really important to making sure that we get accurate results. Another source of distortion or disruption to our estimates or the results that we get from collecting and analyzing data is poor data quality. So response bias is a source of poor data quality, where the way we ask the question or the way people respond, either way, can sort of skew the results. So one form of response bias is when people decide not to answer because maybe they're uncomfortable with the question. That can be a huge source of distortion because sometimes that's because of what their answer might be. And that means that in the end, they're not represented in our results or our estimates. Another source of distortion or another way that our data quality can be poor is that sometimes we ask people things that they just can't remember accurately. People are really good at forgetting or remembering things wrong, and that's just a natural aspect of being a human. But that obviously can really make it difficult for us to get good information when we're trying to make a decision. Next, we have validity issues, and this goes in a lot of different directions, but ultimately what validity refers to is, are we measuring what we think we're measuring? So if we're asking people, do you like this product? And there's a price on the product, they may say they don't like the product when they like the product, but they don't like the price. So again, this really goes back to how we ask questions, what we ask, and whether we're measuring exactly what we think we're measuring. If we're measuring the wrong thing, clearly we're not going to have good information to guide us. All right, another way that our results can end up skewed or distorted is through researcher bias. If you allow yourself as a researcher to influence the way that people answer questions or the data that you choose to analyze, that bias will distort the outcome or the results. In the same way, if a manager exerts too much influence over the process of gathering data or interpreting that data, that can cause some real distortion in our results. Any of these ways that our results or interpretation can be disrupted or distorted will lead us to making a less than optimal decision. So it's important to avoid these issues.